in the coming months and years? Listen.
My administration will allocate resources every year to the Hustler Fund, from which micro, small, and medium enterprises can access affordable credit to start and expand their businesses. I promised yesterday that we will leverage on technology in the management and disbursement of these funds. And shortly, we will be bringing to this House the legislation and the regulatory framework to operationalize this fund.
All right. President William Ruto speaking about the agenda of his administration, talking about Hustlers Fund. In the speech, it was indicated 50 billion shillings a year. Of course, it's also contained in the manifesto. And Honorable Gathoni, because now your party won the presidency, of course, as you continue the conversation around who is in the majority or not, what will it take? And would you know how soon it would be possible to implement the Hustlers Fund, knowing that we are now in which month? Third or fourth month of, third actually, July, August, September, 4th of the implementation of the current budget. What will it take, even as we hear the president saying that they're looking for 300 billion shillings from across ministries?
Okay, I'm very, very proud, first of all, to humbly thank the great people of Kiambu County, and more specifically, the great people of Githunguri sub-county that I represent, because they gave His Excellency William Ruto the highest number of votes in Kenya. We gave almost 620,000 votes. I'm also happy because Githunguri gave out a turnout of 80.4% of their presidential vote to the basket. And therefore, I'm very, very proud to represent the people of Githunguri. And it is to my interest to make sure that the manifesto we campaigned around is implemented. I remember you asked, and that is why I really wanted to speak on that, because you asked what is our interest to make sure that we are in the majority party or we are in the majority side. It's so that we can be able to implement what we promised, the bottom-up manifesto that we campaigned around. Okay. It is our duty to make sure, as representative of the people, those that trusted us and believed in us, that we are going to make sure that we execute and implement what we promised. I am very excited about the Hustler Fund, the 50 billion that was promised by His Excellency the President towards the Hustlers' support. I'm very, very happy because even the presidential speech that he gave in Parliament was revolving around how to empower the bottom of the pyramid in terms of empowering them in their economic life so that they can be able to create a bigger tax base for this country. So you asked me how fast can we be able to create the kitty of the 50 billion? We can do it as yesterday, depending on how much we can afford to do it. Because, of course, you have had a lot of, vibes here and there saying we have no kitty, we have no money to buy fuel. I saw that yesterday. I think it's here in the papers today. We are running short of forex exchange.
Though it's contested.
Yeah, it's contested, yes. But I saw a statement from Central Bank yesterday. But what that said and done, me and you know very well as Kenyans that our economy has really been on the flat of the pyramid right now. And therefore, we may not be able to create the kitty tomorrow, but it is our intention to create it yesterday, because that is what we promised. And the only way to make sure that we revamp the economies of Kenya is to make sure that the majority of taxpayers are the people who are in trade. We are no longer going to look at taxing more trade. We are looking at taxing more income. Because, you can tax more trade and make sure that even those that are struggling to start the trade have disappeared out of the scenario. And therefore, for me,
when you say taxing more income, what do you mean?
We tax more income than tax more trade. The history of tax in this country has been punitive to the traders. Forgetting there are other people who have more income. They are not traders, but they have more income, but their income is not taxed. But the traders, the person who trade is the person who has been bearing the hard knuckle from the taxman. Which is this income that is not taxed? We have a lot of other sources of income. I don't know whether you have ever filled a questionnaire where you are told to declare your economic activity, your source of income, and other source of income. We have, I don't know why we have this kind of approach that only traders have been targeted to pay tax. But there are people who have other sources of income who are never taxed. Please invite me for another discussion here. I'm going to talk about
I have
that.
a minute.
Yeah, but for today, you have asked me a question. How soon? How soon can our economy recover to afford to create the 50 billion tax? I mean, 50 billion kitty. My brother, we have so much kitty spread across the country that makes a very insignificant impact. The only kitty that makes a lot of significant impact, and my colleagues can bear me witness and I can attest to that, is CDF.
We agree.
Everywhere you drive around this country, you will see a toilet renovated by CDF. A school classroom, a gate, a school gate, a bridge, a road, something that is actually supported by CDF. So the only kitty we can actually say should stand around is CDF because it is something visible to even Wananchi, including even the bursaries. But we have so many other kitty. We have National Government Affirmative Action Fund. I'm a former women rep, and we had a kitty, which is also very visible, and I thank God. But we have many other kitties. We have the Youth Fund. We have Women Enterprise Fund. We have Uwezo Fund. We have a Disability Fund. All those funds, to me, are funds that were created to purposely uplift the hustler. So the money is there. All we need to do is provide the legal framework to make sure that all these monies, all these kitties that are there, if they are consolidated, by the way, they are more than even 50 billion that we are looking for hustler.
So are you talking about consolidating what is existent or establishing a totally new
First of all, we consolidate what we have and create a legal framework to execute and implement.
And that's
because there's so much opaqueness around the kitties that we actually can't tell you the way we tell you CDF has been visible. GAF is visible. We can see what has been done. We are not yet sure whether these other funds are visible enough. But there is a lot of money. So for us to be able to start the Hustler Fund, let us first of all work with what we have, consolidate, create a legal framework. And I remember, I think the previous parliament, there was a proposal to create a consolidated kit.
Yes.
I can't remember. It was the Biashara kit or something. There was something that I saw across the... But it was towards the end of the parliament.
We had
bring like, together, create one fund, because let me tell you, women are hustlers. And they have a kitty called the Women Fund. Youth are hustlers. They have Youth Fund. Uwezo, the people who benefit from it are also hustlers. So why create another hustler fund? They are also hustlers consolidated together to make one hustler fund. That's my take.
I hear you. Honorable Gabriel, I thought it was supposed to be a different fund, but I hear what she says, that it will depend on availability of funds, but also in laying the infrastructure, the president speaks a little bit about it, and they're going to come up with measures. What would you say would be the reasonable time frame required to set it up in law?
First, just to start, I think the issue of the question of 50 billion is not much. We just need to be prudent on our finances management. Maybe it's not lost to members that previously we had this kitty called Uwezo Fund, which was a little bit not properly managed. It was supposed to be a revolving fund. It's more of akin to what maybe the president is talking about. Now, to me, I think the president is very clear and candid that he wants to introduce in on the floor of the House, so that we set a framework where we are going to have an institution akin to maybe a CDF or Uwezo Fund, where these funds is going to be available for the hustlers, so that they can borrow with, they talked about, with no collateral, with no big struggle, so that they can able to inject in their enterprises. So to me, it's well doable. It's something that we can be produced in the House.
How many months?
We can pass as quick as members, maybe what? Depending on, I'm sure every member here was overwhelmingly voted by the hustlers, regardless of where they come from. They are the poor people on the ground. So I don't anticipate where we are going to have an opposition. It's something that we can pass. So you don't know how many months it
would take?
No, but I don't know, maybe my seniors here, maybe traditionally,
well, if I may come in,
you know, Sam, I don't know.
Go ahead, Honorable Kosi.
So it's going to be like a government bill.
Yep.
You see, I'll tell you this, sir. I've been in Parliament. This is my third term. That in Parliament is a Thai Parliament. It's not going to be easy. I want to say this without fear of contradiction. And that's going to affect some of these proposals that we're talking about. And I think the earlier it is resolved, the better for the president. You know, I've worked with the president for many years. He has a good heart, to be very honest to you. He has a good heart. But the way our country is now dichotomized, it's going to be very difficult. Parliament is a tie. And if you want to introduce that kind of fund, now looks like it's not clear. My reading was that it's going to produce something new. It's not about consolidation of waste of fund and so on. It's going to be something new, right? And when you are bringing something new, two things come in. How do you administer? Earlier, we were hearing it was going to be done through constituencies. It was going to be done through constituencies, right? And now that looks like it has changed to become what? To become like cooperatives or a bank. So that again also need to be thought about through, right, into a legislative proposal. And of course, when it comes, it has to go through the cabinet. Now we are talking about the timing. It has to go through cabinet. So we need a cabinet. So we need to approve this cabinet very quickly, and we need to resolve the leader, majority, and minority soon, so that we form the leadership to vet. That's the truth. We need to vet the ministers quickly.
So in your assessment, how many months? 3, 6,
this
1 year?
If we get it less than 6 months, it will be really ambitious. And that brings me to this question, which is, I've done my math, Sam. As it is now, if Azimio is a majority, in committees, it will be majority by 51 against 49, Kenya Kwanza. If Kenya Kwanza moves the coalition they want, or the people, the parties they want, it will be 53 Kenya Kwanza, and Azimio 47. If you come back to the committees where now it is the kitchen of doing all these things, it will be a majority of 1. If we are to do committees today, then Azimio will have majority of 1, only 1 member. And if you do it tomorrow after 3 months or 4 months, when the others have affected their movement properly, it will be the one number will tilt. It will be Kenya Kwanza having the majority of 1 member. It is not going to be easy, Sam. And as my colleague said, it is true. You cannot dictate who becomes the chair. Right? You cannot tell people now, because now we are the majority as Kenya Kwanza, we will have the chair. It's only a majority of 1 member. If a member, right, if a member in that committee decides to campaign, right, he can be actually elected. Last parliament, when I became the chair, we were 67% majority against NASA, about 33. You just can't.
And in the committees, what majority did you?
In last parliament,
do you have?
I had a majority of 12 out of 19. So NASA had only 7. They can't do anything. Now it is dangerous. We are now 15. We are now 15. The membership has been cut from
8 versus 7.
Yes. So when you say that you want to dictate leadership of the committees, you can't. We are about 40 committees. Okay. You cannot dictate on all of them. That's what I'm saying.
Very interesting. I ask you one question.
What needs to be done is we need to harmonize the House. I think this is my plea.
All right. I hear you. I'm getting to you, Dr. Nicole, just a moment. Let's listen to the president as he spoke about his agenda about water, pushing it to 80%.
I have already instructed the PPP unit at Treasury to work on the regulations that will facilitate the mechanism like we have in our energy sector for investors to work with us on a formula under a water purchase agreement instrument.
All right. Dr. Nicole, very quick.
There's a principal issue even when you're bringing the water purchase and so on. On how long? I think you asked a very specific question. You look at the processes. Today we are going to Parliament. I think the most thing we are likely to do today is do the House Business Committee. I think that will be probably all, because it has to set there. Then starting tomorrow, we are actually going to discuss the president's speech. Normally it takes about 3 days that is given to discuss the president's speech. So it means that week is over. Then we are going to have to establish the committees. So let's say we are very fast. Next week the committees are all in place. Then we are going to vet the ministers. So I'm seeing by the end of this month, say 1 month, when things are working very well smoothly, we should have the cabinet fully in place. Then let's assume this is going to go through the cabinet. Maybe it has the technical people have done it. It can quickly go through the cabinet, maybe give it another 2 weeks or so. Then it will come through back to the parliament, it will go through the committees and so on. That is just because there has to be, if it's talking of regulations and so on, it will either be a regulation through some act that's already existing, like the Public PMFC Act in Parliament, that we put regulations or we put a new act together. We are talking of probably another month. When you then put it and then it is signed, I'm talking of maybe 3 months, it may then be signed by the president. Then you have to start putting the structures in place. If it's very, very quick, maybe 6 months. But to me, my experience, I was involved in the Women Enterprise Fund. I saw the ways of fund come into place, the youth fund. So I'm saying towards the end of 1 year, I think it may be in place and operational if it is done well. 6 months, putting the structures, I don't see that. It's very difficult unless we really just go out to do that. But that is if we just start. But if now we are also going to consolidate these funds, the Ways of Fund, the Women Enterprise Fund, the Youth Fund, together to form it, then we have another more difficult task, because then we have to wind up these funds.
Right.
You have to wind them up and then start another one. So maybe you'll have one legislation that as it creates this one, it repeals those ones and then puts a winding up process. But then the structures will have to be dealt with. There's a difference between politics and getting things done. Yeah, so I say, because I like the fund, because it's going to help the people.
Right.
Once the people comes, we can call it whatever names, those are political. But if the fund is helping people, I actually got the Women Enterprise Fund moving.
No question about that.
I got the Women Enterprise Fund moving. It was actually passed. I joined the ministry. It was in law, 1 billion in the bank. Nothing was happening. It took us almost 6 months to just put the structures for the Women Enterprise Fund work. Yes. So these are the realities.
And this is reality. I don't know how you communicate to people.
And let me say what my uncle say. That is assuming we are all very cooperative and we are making things move.
And you care about the hustlers.
And we care about the people.
The hustlers. Just call them hustlers.
Start removing the words. No, let me talk about some reality here. Once we now go to help Kenyans, we must also avoid in our relationship words and terms that evoke emotions. Because I can decide to just oppose this, stop it, because I don't like the word. So once we now agree, we want to help Kenyans, whatever it is called, and we move smoothly. So I think we are talking of within a year, it should be in place. But if now we don't play ball and it gets difficult, it can be very difficult. We wouldn't intend to do that because the people, the people,
point of order, point of order, point of order.
They're trying to say the word hustler is not pleasant to them, but I'm telling them they had Baba Care.
Which was not even English.
Okay.
I will agree with you that when I wanted us to...
So let's look at the concept.
No, if we wanted to implement Baba Care, when I'm talking to you, I will actually not even call it Baba Care.
You call it Rider Care.
No. It doesn't matter what we call it. I would convince us, let's do this thing. But you don't bring terminologies that make discussions difficult.
Okay.
And I think I've strived to answer you.
The good thing is,
I would be looking forward to Honorable Nikal standing on the floor of the House. I would be looking forward to the moment when Honorable Dr. Nikal would stand on the floor of the House and say that he's not supporting the Hustler Fund because of the name Hustler. I would look forward to that moment. Coming from a gentleman like him,
the truth is, let me also, the truth and an element of experience, an element of age. Even in our houses where we live, there are certain concepts that we may agree on. But the language you use may actually disturb. This is just reality.
Okay.
And so that if I don't stand in the floor of the House, I may not be now supporting and standing to say it, but deep inside me, what I'm feeling is stopping me. It is our duty as leaders to take care of those feelings so that things are done. Like this lady who said, don't kill the child if you want to cut it. Leave the child be alive, but give it to the other lady.
But I would want to
hear you.
interrogate this further to just understand how emotional the word hustler is, because he said we should not use emotional words when you're making law. I mean, or names. So I would want to interrogate further. Maybe I'll look for him for a cup of tea to explain to me how emotional the word hustler is.
No, he'll support. I know him.
He will support.
Just hold on. What I'm saying is...
No, I'll just remove it and support the concept.
We are responding...
Good enough.
We are responding to that statement by the president on his statement that the commitment that they're going to implement that fund. I mean, you may disagree on the name, but anyway, Kenyans will be waiting to hold you to account on your promises. Someone said that it's not so much money. I'm just looking at CDF this year. It's a allocation of 44 billion shillings. So 50 billion shillings is quite humongous. You disagree?
Yeah, you know, the issue of much or little depends on the impact it's going to create in the country. This is a game changer. To put 50 billion to such a very noble cause, where the very low person on the ground will be able to access this fund to change their livelihood. It's too little even to...
I'm just saying...
in fact, we can support it to be even 100 billion.
A fund like CDF is supporting 290 constituencies. So if you compare that to 50 billion shillings, you can see the sort of how humongous it can be. I want us to take a look at the feedback that is coming to us via Twitter, Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag to use is a daybreak on what your views are this morning to the members of the National Assembly. This is Huza HSC. You're saying that the easiest and painful way of crushing a nation is to announce food shortage in the capital's farming is a village matter. So GMO is an alteration of germination. Whoa. Okay. Bob Otieno, you're saying that I don't trust GMO and scientifics. These are ungodly because it's artificial. Let's go to the godly way, which is natural food production. All right. Engineer Lazaro, you're saying Kenya should adopt modern farming technology with irrigation or to do more research on drought-resistant crops instead of GMO. Shortcuts can be sometimes harmful to our health. Wainaina, you're saying that while we are at it, we are in it for understandable reasons. Well, rather, farming GMO crops may require lots of regulation, which I doubt the government is willing or have the capacity to do. Engineer Lazaro, again, you're saying that what does the law say about party hopping before 6 months expire? The current standoff will force us to revisit the infamous 1964 Limuru Conference where KPU members were asked to seek fresh mandate from the electorate. Is that so? Will we get to that point? Okelo Mwalimu also saying that whoever is expecting a speaker who was elected through political sponsorship to rule against the same party is either fantasizing, playing ignorant, or not too serious. It's too easy, it's too early in the day for National Assembly Speaker to bite the same hand that has just fed him. Whoa, okay, Saul Twiga, you're saying. Dr. Nyikao's reasoning is on another level. In fact, he is making points clearly. As per things stand, Azimio Coalition has the numbers in Parliament, but that one doesn't mean that they are restricted from voting for their choices. For their choice leaders in the House. And then, Sawe, you're saying that turning to GMO is and will not be the solution to food security. In Kenya, we are blessed with land under ADCs. This is enough to produce more by funding them under irrigation. Also, you're saying that implement 10% Maputo Declaration. This is the only way to secure the country. And Jeff, you're saying that this issue of whether to embrace GMO or not must not be left for a few to decide. Kenyans must be thoroughly educated on the same. Then the decision arrived at through public participation. We're gambling too much. Those are the views, and you have heard the Kenyans, the people that you represent. Thank you all. Honorable Gabriel Tongoyo from Narok West, Honorable David Kosing from Pokot South, Gadeno Mushomba from Githunguri, and Dr. James Nyikao from Seme constituency. And I wish you all well. All of you are claiming majority. All the best. We'll be waiting to report about what you decide or what your speaker reports. My name is Sam Gituku. Bye for now. See you some other time.